All right, Eric and Lucas, for more on the 2024 race for the White House, let's bring in Princeton University political scientist Lauren Wright. Lauren, always good to talk to you. So let me start here. Should President Biden run on his record, or should he run against his competitor?
Well, it's probably one and the same, because Biden's record in 2020 was beating virtually every other potential candidate that's on the bench. And so, I think there's a couple gubernatorial candidates, maybe Whitmer and Newsom, who have not been in the mix, but they have serious problems with how they dealt with COVID. And so I think Biden, despite his problems, despite the age, I think it's very relevant and it is a liability, is still the best person that Democrats have if they want to keep the White House.
Meanwhile, let me take a look now at the latest Wall Street Journal national poll on Trump versus DeSantis. So 4 months ago, Lauren, DeSantis was up with 52% approval. Trump was at 38%. Today, Trump is with 52%, DeSantis at 38%. So how would President Biden's campaigning strategy change if the GOP candidate is POTUS 45 or the Florida governor? Again, or should it?
I mean, and those numbers might flip-flop a few more times as we keep going forward. But it's been very impressive what DeSantis has been able to do with his name recognition, differentiating himself. There's a bunch of other governors that are probably going to run on the Republican side. And so none of, the criticism lately to take away from what he's done to differentiate himself. But I think it's really difficult, the position he's in, because the 6-week abortion ban, the fights with Disney, he doesn't need to just get the hardcore Republican right on his side. He also needs to get moderates. And so what he really needs to do is shove aside those alternative candidates, the Chris Sununu's and Nikki Haley's and all of these candidates that are polling at 5% or less. He needs to add up those numbers, and it needs to be more than what Trump's getting. And this dynamic will change a lot more, Arthel.
Yeah, we'll watch for it. It is quite interesting. Meanwhile, what is President Biden's hard sell to Democratic voters?
I mean, it's going to be the hard sell that only a sitting president can pitch from behind the presidential seal, and that's the big advantage. It's incumbency. It's me, you know what I'm going to get. And to Democratic voters, it's his policy record, which is the same thing Republicans will attack. And, I think when people talk about Biden's age and his acuity, and it's absolutely true that he's given fewer press conferences and interviews than his predecessors. In fact, the New York Times had a report out showing he's talked less to reporters than any president since Reagan. Those things are fair, but when Republicans come after him, it will not only be because of his policy record, it will be because of his age, and they will suggest, hey, this might not even be the person that you're going to stick with. It might be Kamala Harris if he can't finish a term. It might be one of these other people. And so they do have a lot of firepower, frankly, but they're also doing a lot to shoot themselves in the foot.
And I do want to ask you, do you think both parties might have, say, a surprise candidate on deck in case either of the front runners, whoever it may be on the Republican side, end up backing out of the race at some point for unforeseen reasons?
Maybe they will, but I have no idea who that would be when I'm thinking about it right now. On the Democratic side, again, it's a chaos. It's a mess if Biden decides not to run. That's a nightmare for them, as I've talked about a bunch. On the Republican side, I think there's probably a greater chance that we'll see a candidate we can't possibly anticipate right now, because they have a wide open field, and Biden, as you just mentioned in your earlier segment, is about to announce that he's running for sure. I wouldn't read too much into the endorsements right now. They just are a reflection of the same polling numbers that we see that show Trump's ahead. And so, a lot of these early indications, we cling to every piece of news about which candidate's getting the most donor support. Those just tend to be proxies for who's polling the best. And so we really have to wait until these candidates get out there. Many of them haven't even formally announced yet, to see what their national campaign is and whether they have the chops to answer tough policy questions. On both sides of the aisle, there are candidates who have not answered them yet.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're very right about that. Really quickly, for my last question to you, about 20 seconds if you have, Lauren. Once President Biden officially announces, the former president Donald Trump is going to come out with all of his attacks. Where, though, might the former president go wrong if he attacks the current president in a certain way?
Maybe a personal attack. The worst possible strategy Trump could use at this point is by rehashing the 2020 election, repeating the lie that it was stolen. That's not what people want to hear. But if he sticks to Biden's policy failures, that is a message a lot of voters are open to. If he sort of runs to the left of DeSantis a little bit, he might manage to get through. And the last advantage I'll just say Trump has is because he's a celebrity candidate, because he came from outside politics, he is held to a different standard than a lot of his competitors. He's not expected to be ideologically consistent. He's not even expected to behave any certain way. So that's another feather in Trump's cap, and he might be the nominee. Yeah.
But he has to remember the 2020 election was not stolen. Get over it.
Yes, exactly.
Lauren Wright.
Stop saying that.
Right?
Right.
Yeah. Lauren Wright, thank you so much. I look forward to talking to you again. Take care. Eric?
Sounds good.
Well, the reward money is going up for whoever can help police find the person who threw a rock through the windshield of a woman's moving car and it killed her. Another rock-throwing incidents were reported that night. We'll have the very latest on this disturbing case next.